You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks for on the show. We got a great episode today with Jason Rigoli. Now, Jason Rigoli is the owner of GCS Construction. Now, a little bit about GCS. So Jason has actually built a distinguished career in the construction industry through dedication, expertise, and a commitment to client satisfaction. His journey began in school, where he discovered a passion for reading blueprints and operating heavy equipment while working for an excavator contractor. This early experience ignited his interest in building and creating from the ground up. Now, Jason's professional journey started in the trucking industry, where he quickly expanded his skills and knowledge to encompass excavation, design, and general construction. Under his leadership, GCS Construction has evolved into a nationwide enterprise known for its excellence in handling complex infrastructure projects. The company prides itself on its design-build capabilities and has the ability to save clients money while enhancing project efficiency. Jason's client-centric approach and emphasis on positive, timely project management have been instrumental in the company's rapid growth. He has successfully cultivated strong personal relationships with clients, which has led to a loyal customer base and a steady stream of new projects. All right, guys, so we're going to be in the construction space today. I think we're going to have a great episode, and can't wait to hear Jason's story. So sit back and absorb. All right, guys, we have Jason Rigoli from Geometric Construction Services. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you today?
Well, it's a Friday here in Canada where the weather is starting to get cold in the mornings. I don't know how it is in your location. Is it warm yet, or is it starting to get cold?
It's starting to cool off in the mornings and be, 70s, 80s in the afternoon.
I'm sorry, 70s and 80s would be okay. In the 20s to 20-ish, almost 30 degrees Celsius. For a lot of my Canadian listeners, we'll go by Celsius. Yep. So I always pull that out when we're there. So, all right, Jason Rigoli, Geometric Construction Services. What's your story?
Well, we started 27 years ago. I started right out of basically high school, got into the industry. The construction industry is kind of in my family background. I actually started this company. When we first got started, of course, it was like any beginning business. There was a lot of ups and downs. There was, difficulty trying to find clients, having clients trust you because I was younger. And as I grew and got older, and got more into the industry, I started reaching out and started understanding what clients wanted, what they needed from me, how to talk to my clients to assure them that by hiring my company, it was going to be the smartest decision for them. So, and it comes with a lot of communication, comes with time and diligence. And I've learned you just cannot rush people into a project or a situation. Everybody's got to watch their financial positions. And you just kind of have to let each individual client feel comfortable with the decision they're making.
Interesting. So explain to the listeners, like what specific construction, because construction is a very broad term, right? Because there's a lot of things you can do. So what are the specific services that Geometric Construction Services provides?
We do general construction service, so we general contract. We also do excavation, land clearing. We do demolition, we do concrete work, we do utility work. We basically perform every project that we do, from ground to the finished product, when the last shingle, the last touch of paint, and the last finishes go on.
That's great. So what's your current mix right now between like commercial clients and residential clients? Is it all commercial, or is it kind of split?
Right now, we're more commercial. Our residential runs somewhere between 10 and 15% currently. I think it just has a lot to do with maybe the timing, maybe the economic situation right now. But we're more on the commercial side currently. But I am trying to reach more of the residential clientele, just because I feel like that I like that personal touch with my customers. Right. I feel that they can contact me anytime they want to, for any reason, if my faucet's leaking, or, my ceiling's dropping, or, cracking, or, I need a roof, or whatever it may be, all the way down to a concrete driveway and, building a house, really. I mean, we,
Well,
we,
it's funny,
go ahead.
Jason, right? Because like when you think of construction, like I think sometimes when firms like to specialize in, let's say, one thing, you know, sometimes the creativity kind of gets lost. I'm not saying all the time, but in some cases. So let's say if you only focus on, let's say, just driveways, for example, you know, after you're doing like a few hundred drives, like you've done probably like hundreds or maybe thousands of projects already. If it's always the same thing, you know, it's like, yeah, okay, it's repetitive. Yeah, we know how to do it, but I guess you're part contractor. You're almost like part artist as well. You kind of want it to look way, and you like to think outside the box, right?
Right, right. And you're right. Just to go back to driveways, for instance, I mean, there are some people that, in clients that like their driveways stamped. Some people like them to have design in them. Some people like to put integrate like brick patterns or any type of thing. So there's always a unique product when we deal with each and every client. Every client wants something special.
Yeah.
So, and we try to make our clients as happy as we can and try to appease their style or their product that they want.
Nice. And my last question on driveways, I promise listeners, the last question about driveways. So you talked about a few different ways that you can do your driveway. I've started to see some here, at least in Ajax, Ontario, Canada, where I'm from, where they have it like stoned, but they put like this very shiny glaze on it, so it looks very shiny. But for some reason, I noticed that I've seen a lot of those driveways, but after a few years, either it's flaking or something. Is that just like, it's not is it the product themselves, or is it installation, or is there actual maintenance that the homeowner needs to be doing if you move in that direction of having, like, I'm going to call it a glazed driveway?
Right. There's a chemical that you can put on those glazed driveways to ensure that the glazing doesn't peel, but it can also be from, you know, anything during the winter, like salt and sand. It destroys driveways. You know, some people use kitty litter. Even kitty litter people say, "Oh no, it's safe." It's really not.
Yeah.
You know, everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't think about putting kitty litter on the ground, but yeah.
Exactly. So, but basically, where things are at with that is just try to treat your driveway as much as you can. There's I don't know if you guys have Lowe's and Home Depot or what kind of home improvement you have there, but most of the stores carry the special types of glazing that you can just put in a spray bottle and go out and spray your driveway down. It's pretty simple, but you know, you don't have to do it every year, but every couple years it's nice to do. But also the chipping and the flaking on driveways can come from installation, or, you know, if the concrete installer had hot concrete brought in, they call it, and they went ahead and used it anyway, it can mess up a driveway as well.
All right, so all right, listeners, that's the last one on driveway. So anyways, back to, more importantly, you guys didn't want to hear me, you want to listen to Jason here. So Jason, out of all the services you provided, how big is your current team right now?
Currently right now we're running about 28 people. 28 employees.
Wow, that's a lot, actually. Yeah. And you said you have a few locations all over the U.S., right? Can you identify locations?
Yes. Kansas City, Missouri. We have Houston, Texas. We have New Orleans, Louisiana, and we also have St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay. Now, for listeners who are listening and watching, now Jason is not a triplet. So how do you manage those 3 different locations from there? Do you have like a good leadership team that's kind of managing it, or is it kind of done remotely and you're kind of like, you know, because obviously you can't be 3 places at once, right?
That's correct. I actually have a good team, office staff, and I travel a lot. So I'm in and out between each different office. I probably try to visit all the offices at least once, maybe twice a month. So, but I'm pretty busy myself, traveling around to other job sites throughout the United States, and we're actually branching off. I've done some work overseas. We're actually in the process of getting in with a company overseas to start building hotels, airports, apartments, housing developments, and so on.
Are you able to disclose the country, or is it still in talks?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, sorry. Are you able to disclose what country overseas you're willing to do, or are you still in discussions with them?
We're still in discussions,
Okay.
but currently we're looking like in the Saudi Arabia area. We're looking in the Dubai area. And we're just kind of moving around a little bit. The Philippines, we're looking to do some work over there too, and just kind of branching out.
Wow, talk about growing there. That leads me to my next questions here. Like, what are your plans for expansion? So I guess they kind of answered the question right there. It's basically worldwide domination, right, Jason?
Yes. It's always been a dream of mine just to kind of reach out, and I love traveling and I love meeting different people. All kinds of makes out there, and you just have to, it's really a pleasure to sit down with clients and from any ethnicity and enjoy their story, listen to their life a little bit, see what they can bring to the table. And amazingly, I've seen some really interesting projects that people have in mind. They just don't know how to put it together because they may not have the financing. We're in the process of we're going to start offering financing through my company as well,
Wow.
which is a little bit intricate. Trying to find good companies and good banks and people that aren't going to judge the clients to come to them if their credit's not quite so perfect. We're just trying to work with different financial institutions to make it possible for the less fortunate or just any random client that comes to the table that needs financing. We're trying to make that possible.
Oh, that's a really cool service, man. I didn't even think about, because I guess that's something that most people never thought about, is that when they start as an owner, they're thinking, all right, we're going to offer basic, construction services, whatever that service is. But then how do you add on different layers to it that gives you a more diversified portfolio of revenue coming in, right? So if it's not just on the jobs that you're doing, it's like, okay, well, we can expand out, we can try different countries, maybe opportunity there. Or in your case now, it's, well, it's not just doing the job. Well, how about we get some way to get the financing, so that if majority of the time that you're hearing a no from whether it's a commercial client or residential client is financing or funds, then to say, well, hey, we actually provide funding and financing for you. Here's how you do it. And, you get some cut on that back end too, right?
Correct.
Wow.
And it works out for everybody. And we've really, I've kind of toyed with it over the past few years. And it's just never really been something that's worked out, but I think we're getting into some good financial reps that are going to be able to make it happen for us.
Oh, that's awesome. So what about
Yeah.
the next 5 years now? We talked about expanding, and you're already doing a few things like going almost global here. But if you can vision the next 5 years, Jason, where do you see GCS Construction going?
Honestly, I think we're going to, instead of being nationwide, I think we're going to be global. I think we're going to probably open up, I'd say, another handful of offices across the United States, maybe even some overseas.
Not Canada?
Maybe, possibly. We've looked into it. I'm not 100% there yet. I'm moving around the world here, but we're definitely going to be reaching out into those areas like Canada and of course the overseas in the eastern part, the southern, central South America. So it's always been a blessing to me that I'm able to run this business, expand it, find good people that want to hang in there with you and trust and respect what you believe in.
Well, no, that's great. That shows how good of a hiring process you have, because if you have the 28 loyal staff with you and you're expanding out, that's something, if I'm a staff member, I'm like, oh, this is really exciting, because now we're just going to be growing, right? Which means more revenue and potentially a raise, assuming I do well, performing my job well.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this.
Exactly.
So what was the inflection point that you had? Because, you said that residential accounts were maybe about 10 to 15%. So when you first started, was it mainly residential? And what was the point where you started noticing, did you purposely try to focus on commercial for a certain time and now you want to bring up the residential? How did that process go?
Yeah, when we first started, I did quite a bit of work for a few home builders and developers, and the residential side has always been kind of a off and on subject, because there's good times with residential where it's really busy, and then there's a really slow period where things kind of back off. And with the commercial industry, it's pretty much nonstop. and we keep going. So the reason I'm looking more into the residential side, though, I like the personal touch, and I like being able to use my talent and my skill to help homeowners and build what they want, what their dreams are. I've just kind of, over the years, I've thought about it, and it's like, I just really like to be able to. Everybody's got a dream. Everybody wants something. You want that gazebo. You want that deck. You want that patio. You want that outdoor kitchen. You want that sunroom added onto your house. And a lot of contractors out there don't really have the etiquette or the know-how, or they don't want to waste the time. I don't want to say waste, but they don't want to spend the time with their client to sit down and say, they're like, my money.
Yeah. I think it's more like they prefer the task of the job itself, but not the servicing maybe with the actual client, because maybe they've heard of horror stories of really, those clients that just watch you like the entire time, or is questioning everything you're doing. Right. But then I think I get to the point where, but you kind of want them to be involved, because the worst thing you can do is, let's say you have a hands-off homeowner that, okay, I'll go for work. Here's the code to get in so you can do the job. The worst thing is when you're close to completion, they come back, look at it, they're like, that's not what I wanted.
Right.
Because then it gets escalated to you. Right. So
it does. So, but that's why we have tried to kind of be the ear for our clients. We will sit down, spend time. When I do design build projects, I don't just spend an hour, 45 minutes with my clients. I spend hours, sometimes days, on end. I've had clients all over the U.S. that I've gone to and sat down for a week at a time to get their project designed correctly, and then push it out to the engineering firm or whatever it takes, and then work step by step with the engineering firm to build their project. When somebody's building an office building or a restaurant or a hotel or anything, for a warehouse for that matter, there's always something specific that they need. So you don't just slap up a building. You've got to worry about the inside, the guts of the building.
Yeah.
Without their project or their business may not work.
Exactly, right. And especially depending on your building model as well, right? So we'll talk about that from Tips from the Pro here. So then when you first started this, we can ask this from when you started and what you currently are operating right now. What has been your biggest line item of expense? Like, what are your expense drivers that you're seeing right now, from when you began and also what you see currently?
Everybody knows right now it's fuel. Fuel up. Material costs are up. They've gone down a little bit, but they're still up. Technology, as in grade tools, level tools, just your typical hand tools have increased in price. Essentially, about 85 to 90% of all materials, tools, has gone up, and it's just crazy. I'm really hoping it comes back down soon, and it's hard because that's another thing that's affecting clients as well, is they've got a budget in mind. We just had a project that we were looking at, a shopping center renovation out in Kansas. And as we're out there talking to the engineer and the architect, they had a budget in mind, which they never tell us what that budget is. We put together the numbers, and then they come back and say, well, you're this is where we're at, but we're way over budget from what we're thinking. Well, that's because they're wanting to build their project or complete their project based on numbers from 5 to 10 years ago. Right. The numbers just aren't. And that's what's driving me right now to put in effect the financing that we're trying to offer. Right. And so the client can build what they want without problem.
Well, absolutely. It gives them that one less thing to say no to, right? So they know that they qualify for the financing, not to say that you're going to gouge them and just charge them up, up through the nose, right? But when you're being fair in your pricing, and is a lot of the work that you're winning, are they through like bids and tenders and stuff like that? So like, especially for the commercial side, I'm assuming that must be the case, right?
Well, yes, we do have quite a clientele from word of mouth. We get a lot of walk-in business. People come to us and say, "Hey, we want you to look at this. We know your number's going to be good. We know that you're going to be the one we want to use." Do still bid projects. It's just an ongoing thing. You always want to keep something in the pipeline. You never just want to depend on a project, because I'm working on a project right now that it's been almost 2 years and we're still kind of creeping along with it, but it's starting. I mean, it's going to be probably up and running here in the next 6 months, but it's, these design build projects take time. And as well as clients, and other customers, everybody wants to move faster than the cities want to move. Everybody wants to move faster than suppliers can move. And sometimes it's kind of a hurry up and wait game.
Yeah, because I think some people make the mistake when they assume that the contractor has all the materials right then and there. They have a warehouse of all the materials that they just grab, right? In some cases, that might be true, but in other cases, you might have to pick it up from your local supplier as well, right? So it's not that, you have a warehouse full of stuff. So let me ask you this then. So is there any other expense that most people who didn't know in the construction industry that you actually have to pay for? Or they'd be surprised to know, it's like, oh, wow, you have to pay for that.
Yeah. I mean, really, every material, every supply you buy, everything costs. I would love to say there's free materials or there's free stuff.
We grow our own wood, Ken. That's what we do.
Right. Exactly. And what the other thing is too, a lot of my materials, like if I get on a project that's say a concrete demo or something, and let's say we're demoing out a concrete parking lot, right? And there's got to be base put in underneath of the new concrete. We will take our crushing equipment out there. We will crush the concrete and make gravel out of it and use it as base. And that saves our clients money as well from having to go out and buy rock from a quarry.
I didn't even think about that. You could actually just break the thing down already there, and that'd be a good level base. Oh, interesting. Good to know. Right. We're going to have some more questions about that afterwards. But okay, now we're going to ask you about social media. Now, obviously, this is not a social media podcast. So what kind of social media do you use to help grow your business?
To be honest, I really just use my website. I do have a Facebook page. I don't use Instagram or TikTok or anything. Some of my staff has been after me to get on that just because they think it would be neat, and especially with our rock quarry that we're getting ready to put together out in Manhattan, they think it'd be neat to have like TikTok videos to show people about the crushing and how it works, and if somebody wanted to get started in it, maybe kind of be a learning lesson or maybe teach maybe educational is what I should say. But that's really all I use right now is Facebook and my website. So
I bet you, Jason, your staff is, maybe I haven't spoken to them. I haven't spoken to them at all. They're probably going to want you to do like the TikTok dances or something in some way, shape, or form, just to see you do a dance.
They're going to make me all kinds of crazy. So
Love it. Love it. Oh, man, that's going to be great. Okay, so let's talk about the actual construction industry here. So I just want to know, from the construction side and the whole overall industry, where do you see it going, and what's your opinion on it?
We've been trying to look into that. We've been kind of following the market. We've been following a lot of things that are happening right now, and especially with the storms that just happened down in the Southeast here. The outlook for construction is always going to be, it's always going to be a necessity. People are going to have to build. It's going to happen. Highways are going to be built. Bridges have to be repaired. Buildings have to be torn down. There's always going to be a demand for construction. But the problem that you have is the demand will be there, but is the cost going to get so expensive that we're going to have to find other ways to eliminate the high cost to get into something that's reasonable. Like, the inflation right now, as we all know, is crazy, right? Well, as it goes on, if this continues and there's no ceiling to it, then the market could get a little kind of washed out. Like it just won't, it may not move for a while. It might get stagnant. It may not move for a little while. And that is a concern currently. But we're always trying to find new ways to keep costs down or other directions we can go to save our client cost. And it's hard to do sometimes. And especially when we do a lot of design build work and we're putting out our engineering tools and our efforts, and everything is just, when you put it all together, it's expensive. There's no other way to say it. It's just expensive. And that is a driving part for this market.
Well, yeah, I mean, you brought up a lot of good points there, right? Like,
it's kind of a scary situation, but go ahead.
yeah, sorry, because just gonna say that everything is more expensive. I remember when, my God, remember when COVID hit? I remember like
Yes.
lineups at home. Well, Home Depot was still kind of closed, and you had to wear a mask, and there was so much thing. But I was hearing from some of the other general contractors that I've interviewed in the past was that the material cost was just so high, even for like wood. When people were working from home, they're just like, what to do? I guess I can try to build something, or I don't know if they were fully renovating their homes, but just basic cost of lumber was crazy. The cost of steel was up the roof, and now still the challenge is that all budgets are very much finite, right? Like and that's the thing, like for most homeowners, you have to try to find any kind of budget to try to do your job, right? But even on the commercial side, and I've worked in corporations in the past where, just getting the funds to approve a project of building something, talk about the red tape. Woof. Right. And you can imagine,
exactly.
You can imagine if you're the contractor and you're trying to get this business, you're like, all right, they got to go through 3 more committees before we actually say get a yes so we can start, right?
Yes, and that's one of the things too that is time consuming is permits. It takes time to get permits. It takes time to get, everything takes time. Your drawings take time. Your permits take time. I apologize for my phone.
That's fine.
But nothing moves fast. We all want it to move fast. We'd all love to say, okay, here's the job, let's go start. We chase the money. That's what we've always done. That's what we always do. That's why we're business owners. And without us chasing the money and trying to be on top of it, you don't have a business. You don't have employees. You don't have insurance. You don't have equipment. You don't have anything. Yeah. So you always have to be that person. There's not a 9 to 5 in this industry. I mean, I'm up and out the door as early, but stars are still shining when I go out. You know what I mean? And I don't usually get home or out of the office until late at night. And I work 6 days a week if I have to. I try not to. I do need some life for myself. But having a business, you basically, it's your life. You're married to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I guess the next the question I have here, what is the biggest misconception that you get when you introduce yourself to a client, whether it's a residential or commercial? Do they have any preconceived notions or misunderstandings of what they think you do?
That's kind of a hard question because really we don't, when I go into a client or I get into something, I try to make sure that everybody knows exactly what we do, and we do everything. So it's not we don't do everything. We don't do mechanic work. We don't do that stuff. But when it comes to the building or the designing of a project, we do it all. So when I go into my clients, I have a brochure that I hand to them, or I can say, go to my website and they can see exactly what we do. That way they're not calling me to, put sod down in their yard. We can do that. I have landscapers that do that, but they're calling because I need a new deck. I need a new banister on my porch. I need something like that. But we do have ways. But like I said, the website is the most efficient thing. It's got everything from A to Z that we do, and that's why I send a lot of people to it. But we do have a brochure that we can hand out if we on on-site estimates.
Right. Nice. And I'm going to say a really funny story. So one of the reasons I really find the construction industry very interesting is that I used to watch a show here in Canada. It was called Homes on Homes, right? So it was one of those, people got screwed over by a bad contractor. He fixes it up and whatever. I remember watching one of the subcontractors he uses, right? And I remember calling them one time. So my wife and I, we had just bought our first townhome. And, the biggest thing that my wife and I had at the time was when we used to live in a condo, the biggest annoyance was washing the dishes. Now, I thought we worked out this agreement is that whoever cooks dinner, the other person does the dishes. Now, Jason, I am okay following that rule. For some reason, my wife found a way that I ended up doing both, and it got heated at times. And I told her because we were renting my aunt and uncle-in-law's condo, but they had this condo back in 1980 something, and she was single at the time, and she never used the dishwasher at all. And if you look at the dishwasher, there's a bunch of pictures, and I have no clue what these things do. Right, because there's no manual. This is back in 2005 or 2006.
Right.
So, anyways, fast forward back. It's 2009. We find our first home, but unfortunately, it was a townhome, but they didn't have a dishwasher. Like I said, I told her when we buy a house, if it does have a dishwasher, that's the first thing we're buying is the dishwasher. So, me being an idiot, not really knowing about what contractors do, I called this contractor who was on Nationwide for really big jobs. And I said, hey, I saw you guys. I really would. I just want to know, what is the smallest kind of job you guys do? And the first thing they said was, oh, you mean like a bathroom renovation? I'm like, smaller.
Right.
Dishwasher install. Right. And of course, they laughed and they said, unfortunately, we don't do that. Right. So that's why I was kind of asking, because like you said, if people go to your website, they'll see all these different commercial clients all the jobs you've done from the commercial side. And like you said, you sometimes will get a call like, I just need a new banister, or I just need new sod. Right. So I like how you can that's the misconception part to know what it is. But hey, if you don't know, if you don't ask, you'll never know. So I guess it's a learning process, right?
Exactly. It really is. And, it's fun at times. We get comical calls. We get, there's people that need help putting in a breaker in their breaker box, and I don't mind. I mean, if I'm available or if I've got a guy available, I'll say, hey, just run over there and take care of that with you.
Jason, thanks for being on the show. It was an awesome episode.
Hey you, do you need a voiceover? Well, look no farther. Northway Capital Group has your answer. Commercials and explainer videos, AVR and voicemail, health and wellness, corporate training and e-learning, announcements, documentaries, and biography. Contact us on social media or email us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.